Hello, everybody. I'm Spike. In one moment, Earth, in the next, heaven. For I have tasted the fruit by Prokhor Zakharov.
I'm Kel. Spike, what are you quoting this time?
Nothing.
I'm
Nothing.
Amanda.
You're just
We'll beat it out of
spouting
here.
gibberish.
I'm Amanda, and we have a guest.
I made it up.
It's me. I'm Ryan. I'm the guest. Surprise.
Ryan, not Ryan Estrada, I should note, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I should say my full name. Yeah, Ryan North.
Yeah.
His name's
Ryan
Ryan
North, not Ryan Estrada. Not Ryan East.
North, tallest cartoonist in the world.
Tallest man in the world. Not just among cartoonists. Cartoonists are easy to beat. This is about everybody.
We cartoonists are a stubby lot in general.
Exactly. No mission insignificant. Best-selling author Ryan North, webcomic veteran Ryan North, and contributor to Failure to Launch Ryan North. We are so happy that you came on. Thank you.
I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to promote Failure to Launch, the new anthology.
Yes.
Funding now on backerkit.com.
Yeah. Funding now on backerkit.com, and we're about to roll up on our second creator pay raise. So if anybody feels like going over there and giving it a bump and seeing these artists get a bigger paycheck, that would be an awesome way to go into the weekend. But
yes,
we are not here to do like just hardcore advertising. We are mostly here to shoot the shit and be obnoxious and talk about comics and whatever else we decide. Is that cool with you?
All I have is Backer Kit written on my hand, so I'm going to be answering every question with "Have you backed it on Backer Kit?"
If that's the case, Spike, don't look at the video and how I set it up.
Why? What happened? Let me see. Oh. Subtle, tasteful, classy.
I made a mistake in OBS and I rolled with it.
No, that works. This is brilliant.
It's the book cover endlessly scrolling.
Oh my god. It's like Jay Sherman from The Critic, except now he's got a live stream on YouTube. Buy my book. Buy my book. But yeah, Failure to Launch is an anthology for the curious. Just going to cover it super fast. It's just about big ideas that went super, super bad. And it's got everything from attempts to ranch hippos in Louisiana to attempts to make the perfect shape for a space station that just simply would not work in reality, and to Kel and Ryan's story, which is about a man I actually went and read about after reading the story. And it's kind of a sad story.
Oh, what did you read?
I just read the Wikipedia article.
Wow, good place to start.
Yeah.
I read a ton for this. It was crazy because I came across this guy in my research on another story I was working on for How to Take Over the World. My book, buy it now at supervillainbook.com. Anyway, this guy is just this fascinating figure where he, I picture him as like this scientist who has somehow like never heard of entropy, never heard of friction, never heard of these basic things that happen in the world. And so he's like, why did people not simply do this easy thing? Why do they not simply use the tides to power their cities and have floating cities that can travel at 100 miles an hour and cure hunger and all this great stuff? Super utopian, but he like apparently believes in it.
What is his name again?
Etzler, Etzler.
Mm-hmm.
And I also read his Wikipedia page, and then I read a master's thesis on the 80s from him.
Wow.
Or about him. It wasn't his thesis because he's too far in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And then working on this, there was a new PhD thesis about him that had come out in late 2021, I think, or mid 20, sometime. Time is a flat circle, as we say. Anyway, it was great because this guy is super obscure, but just like super wild and has famous friends. So he's an interesting fellow.
And for folks who are curious, I think his full name is John Adolphus Etzler, and you can go read the Wikipedia article if you are curious as well. And all I could think of when you were describing him just now is all like, yeah, I've definitely run into that dude on Twitter who replies to everything with, if I were you, I would simply do the absolutely impossible. I don't see what's so hard about it.
My hottest take is that, everyone's like, here's what they should teach in school. But there should be like a day-long lesson in school, maybe just an hour long, that's like, if you have an obvious solution that is also simple and seems like everyone should have thought of by now and it's not being implemented, maybe there's a problem you're not seeing. Maybe the
Yeah.
experts have considered this solution and found a problem that you haven't seen after 30 seconds of thought. The best thing
Yeah.
about the Etzler Wikipedia page right now is that I looked a couple days ago and there's no photo on it, there's no drawing. But if you look at the edit history, there was a drawing that was up there for years. And someone removed it being like, removed speculative and like shitty drawing. Because some guy just drew it based on a description in an old book. I'm like, it's super cute and like super the spirit of Wikipedia.
Is
Yeah.
that
like,
the
I gotta
one that
pitch
you
in.
sent me? Is that the one that you sent me as reference?
Yes. It's just like no one knows what he looks like. This guy took a description, made something up. It's the best we've got, and some Wikipedia is like, this sucks. I'm deleting it, and so it has remained deleted.
It's probably clicking the
Maybe
stream now.
they'll maybe they'll use my cartoon of him now as this is definitely what he looked like.
We can
Maybe.
do that. I've gone through so many hoops to get a good photo of me on Wikipedia because you need to have a release. It needs to be Creative Commons, blah blah blah. And you're not allowed to edit your own Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
You get in big trouble. So I was like, all right, everyone hates me. Here's a drawing. Here's a picture. Here's a license. Hop through all these hoops. But I would love to do that for this failure of a scientist we did a comic about.
It's kind of a shit.
My little brother vandalizes my Sorcery 101's Wikipedia page on the regular, FYI.
That's obnoxious.
You know, my favorite Wikipedia vandalism is, not that I've ever vandalized Wikipedia, but everyone's friend and mine, Chris Hastings, told me that this was decades ago. He probably doesn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
His favorite thing was to go to a random Wikipedia article, go to a random sentence, and just add "believe it or not" at the start of that sentence.
Oh my god.
I love it. It's so wholesome.
Very
Doesn't
good.
hurt anyone.
Yeah.
My second favorite Wikipedia vandalism was an article on, like, I think tillers on boats. And it was done by this guy who clearly did not know what Wikipedia was, but he knew he could edit it. So the paragraph begins, "What follows in the next paragraph is wrong. This is the real way the tillers work. Sincerely, John." And the article continues. I'm like, "Oh, John,
bless.
I love your vibe." It's like, I'm gonna fix this. This is how the encyclopedia should be. Ignore this. Listen to me, John.
It's like how a grandpa sends a text where it starts out like a letter and ends with "Sincerely, with much love, Grandpa."
Dear Ryan, how are you today? Sincerely, Grandpa.
Yeah. But yeah.
Look at the stream now.
Amanda. Well, I mean, it's mildly hypnotic. I'm not opposed. I suppose it's got a pleasant sort of aesthetic to it.
I like it. I loaded up the stream so I could see, and I realized that Ryan Estrada was actually in the chat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said earlier,
Hi,
evil Ryan is in the chat.
He's like
that's what we call him when he's not around.
Yeah, he's like you, but he's got a goatee and his eyebrows slant down, and there's a little more glitter and skin to his uniform, his Starfleet uniform. But other than that, exactly like you.
Ryan, who is here, is the exact right person to make that joke for.
Yes, I assumed it was customized for me. I was like, oh, I appreciate this. Anyone else would be like.
Also, Tales of recently I was rewatching DS9, and I made the mistake of tweeting a question about Star Trek on Twitter and got so many people over explaining it to me, and then I just sent Ryan a message that's like, "Are the Cardassians lizards?" Like, and you gave me the quick answer that I wanted, rather than people being like, well, they have hair on the top of their heads, but also they wouldn't be conforming to like Earth biology and categorizations. I just want to know, are they lizards? Check yes or no.
I know you said Cardassians, but I actually heard Kardashians. And when you said, are the Kardashians lizards? I bit my tongue so as not to say, oh, I read those forums.
Here's the thing. That's the only association I have with that name, the latter. I don't know Star Treks.
Yeah.
That's all I ever hear when y'all talk.
They got like scales. They're guys with long necks, and they got scales, which is why I asked.
I won't remember that.
I refuse to remember that.
Yeah,
I love that. I have that too. I have a couple things I refuse to remember out of sheer just like.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna be petty about this. I cannot tell you what my
I'm
sign
going
is.
to die someday.
Yeah, the kids on Twitter occasionally say something to the effect of, "Wow, isn't it crazy? So and so only had one album, just the one album.
Yeah.
They definitely never made that second album. They have just the one album, and it was so good. I guess that's why they decided to never make another album."
Oh, I hear that a lot with like movies.
Yeah,
I tried that last week, and the person did not get what I was doing. I was so disappointed. Like, it's too bad they never made a Fantastic Four movie, because they'd be really good. And they're like, oh, they made 3 fantastic 4. Did you miss these? How were you writing Fantastic Four and not know they made movies? Like, no, I know. I was make a joke. They're bad.
I
They
guess
made bad movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do that.
They're not all winners.
I do that with the one Wreck-It Ralph movie.
The one Wreck-It Ralph
singular Wreck-It Ralph movie.
And there are no other Wreck-It Ralph movies. There are none.
I haven't seen if they did indeed make a second Wreck-It Ralph, but I think they should make it like super corporate and all about brands and websites.
Well, you're wrong, and I'm glad they will never do that.
Yeah, I'm grateful that didn't happen.
Yeah.
When I think of 80s video games, I think, well, the sequel is not 90s video games. The sequel is eBay.
Yeah, I have complex and unkind. Yeah, I have complex and unkind thoughts about this particular train of thought, but I don't want to bum anybody out in case they like genuinely love what is it? Ralph Destroys the Internet or whatever it is.
Nobody likes that.
I honestly
movie that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I just know it's like it's got that kind of like ready. I haven't seen it either, to be fair, but part of the reason I never saw
it
is
exists, I probably saw it.
It has a real, from the ads I saw, it had a real Ready Player One vibe where it just felt like a bunch of people got together in a boardroom with a stack of IP info and was all like, okay, how can we bloat this out with as many recognizable properties as possible to get as many people in the theaters as possible and then figure out how to write a story around it. And it's all like, no, thank you.
Have you seen one? I haven't seen it either for that reason. I don't know.
Yeah,
okay.
I've only
jokes aside, I have seen both. The first one is one of my favorite animated movies. The sequel is garbage.
Yeah,
hot to garbage.
I have not.
They wrecked it.
Yeah, you might say.
I have not.
I characterize it. You know all those like direct to VHS and DVD Disney sequels. It's really just that, but it got like a theatrical budget.
Release.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
I have not seen Ready Player One because
there you go, Ryan. It's the Emoji Movie with a Disney IP reskin. There you go, Ryan. Thank you. Evil Ryan brought that.
Evil Ryan with evil messages in the chat.
I respect you, Ryan Estrada. I call you Other Good Ryan.
Yeah, but I have not seen Ready Player One, and part of the reason is, first of all, the entire concept just straight up doesn't appeal to me, and secondly, I'm one of those
Ready Player 2 lady.
I'm one of those super tedious nerds who saw about 3 seconds of the trailer, and it prominently featured the Iron Giant.
The Iron Giant! I was going to say, the Iron Giant would not be attacking with guns. That's the whole part of the character.
Like, exactly. It's like,
we're not
this
so different.
tells me you don't, like, just looking at the Iron Giant as part of, like, the vanguard front wave of some giant nerd army attempting to murder people tells me all I need to know about how much of a fuck you do not give.
Okay, so here is an interesting thing about Ready Player One that is not actually in the movie or in the book.
No such thing as an interesting thing about Ready Player One, but go for it.
It's just something I made up in my head.
One San Diego, I was having dinner with some folks, and what I thought was really, really interesting is the divide at the dinner of who liked Ready Player One and who was like, this is horrible and I hate it. All the people who create things hate Ready Player One. All the people who don't create things were like, it's great. It's all the things that I like.
Yeah, that's just it feels like the cinematic equivalent of when a parent dangles their car keys in front of a baby. That sounds super unkind, and I'm sorry, but it's like what comes to mind.
I don't like Ready Player One, but I will say the Iron Giant thing isn't that deep because in universe, it's the equivalent of someone wearing like a VR skin. It's a person wearing a costume. It's not meant to be the Iron Giant.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get that. Like that's the whole vibe that everyone's going for.
It's my turn to be pedantic.
It's like VR chat, like. I get that, but I was just like, the more I saw of it, the less I wanted to see of it, and I was like, this is telling.
So it was just a very interesting divide at dinner. All the people in favor of Ready Player One, were all people who mostly just consume media because it is very much like you are a good person for consuming media is kind of the message of it.
Fahrenheit 451. Excuse me.
And then where all the creators are like, it's just shouting pop culture references at everyone.
Yeah,
like
it's the equivalent of going to see like a stand-up comedy like act, and all the comedian does the entire time is impressions. And there are people who like comedians who do impressions, but there are other people who sit there watching him going, all you're doing is reminding me of people I like way more than you.
What if they're doing impressions of people you don't like?
Amanda.
What?
Stop it.
What? That happens. People do that.
I get that.
It's a real thing.
That, like, I'm in the minority on a lot of this, and I get that, Kel, like you said, the people who consume or the people
keep your
who
Tupperware.
Go and enjoy, keep rats in it. Go and enjoy Ready Player One, and they love it. And I'm not saying they're wrong for loving it, but it was like putting, two north ends of a magnet together. How much it repulsed me.
The other thing that I thought was funny that came out of Ready Player One is someone made a parody that was, what if Ready Player One was about girls media rather, because all the things that it references are stuff aimed at teen boys.
Sounds like Hollywood.
There, I fixed Ryan's height.
So someone went and wrote like a parody that's like getting into the minutia of My Little Pony trivia and like when these Barbies came out and stuff like that, and what was fandom doing while discussing Harry Potter shipping in the early 2000s, like stuff like that, and that was pretty funny to read. As far as parodies go.
Ryan, did you suddenly get? Yes, of course, because you're the tallest fan in the world. Okay,
I just made
Amanda. You did that, didn't you?
Yes, of course. I'm the one who does all the things. Of course, I did that.
Ryan, how tall are you?
2 meters.
Okay.
Oh, right.
That's
You're
what
Canadian. I don't know what that is.
6'6".
Oh, wow! Wow, that's impressive. So, do you come from a tall family?
To do with it.
Do you come from a tall family, or are you a genetic sport?
So here's the thing. I'm going to speak with tall privilege here because my idea of short is shorter than me and tall is taller than me, and I have a real struggle with like, is this person tall? And I was like, not taller than me. So in my mind, no. Oh. But then like you short queens and kings draw distinctions between like 5 foot and 6 foot.
Yeah.
So here's the question. Well, can I call myself a short king? Because I love the phrase short king. Is that your word? Can I use
that is co-opting the word. Yeah.
I have a really funny story about a Tumblr discussion about short king. Is apparently fandom kept increasing the height of who counts as short, and there was like height inflation of the short kings that ended with a Tumblr post, someone being like, being 5'10" does not make you a short king, that just makes you average.
One of the things that I kind of hold on to with a white knuckle grip for reasons I am still working through is 5'4" is the average height for a woman. So I am average. I am not short. I don't care what anyone says. I am actually as average as can be. God damn it.
I am 5 6'2", and I have spent a lot of time visualizing where everyone's center of gravity is and how easy it would be to take them out.
Yeah, Amanda is short. Amanda is shorter than average. Dumpling size.
Again, I have been working out how to take everyone out physically. So don't.
Yes,
most of the dudes in my family are over 6 feet. Like even extended family. So I used to think I was short, and then I met other people. And
yeah, I had that heartbreaking moment that maybe only Amanda can relate to, but I had that heartbreaking moment when I was like, 18, 19. It was clear I was done growing vertically anyway. And I came to realize one day, it struck me, I'm going to stay shorter than both my parents. I am never going to be taller than either of my parents.
I'm shorter than both my parents and all of my younger siblings. I'm the oldest of 6. They all tower over me. I don't know what I did wrong.
Yeah. Some of us
I don't
never
know how I got cursed, but I'm shorter than both my parents.
I think we
actually all my family
reframe the conversation on this, because I one time as experiment looked at reddit.com/tall, and it's all like photos of airplane seats and stuff like that, and like it's a generally happy place. Then I looked at reddit.com/short, and it was all oh my god, I can't believe I'm so short. This is the worst.
Yeah,
my life is over. And I feel like it doesn't. And yes, like I'm a tall guy being like, it's no big deal. But like, it's not something that I have any. You can't credit me with anything for being tall. Like, I work hard to become tall.
I more just think it's funny.
Yeah.
But for reference for the chat, so they know how tall people in my extended family are, I do have a cousin that is the same height as Ryan.
Well, that's
is this the basketball cousin?
He must be a little bit shorter.
Yes, this is the basketball cousin.
Yeah, Kel has a cousin who plays pro basketball in Europe.
No, and he used to play for Europe, and then he played for Japan. He recently retired.
Okay, all right.
Because when you are a professional sports person, you get paid stupid amounts of money and can retire at 30-something.
And second string.
No one told me that.
And second string American basketball players dominate in Japan and Europe.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a missed opportunity, because I never really I played like ultimate frisbee in undergrad. And I felt like I was cheating because I could just stand in the end zone and catch the frisbee, and all the short kings were jumping trying to get it. I had to lift my arm up.
Yeah.
I hope every time you did it, you just said yoink.
See, one of the things
I said rest in pieces.
One of the things I'm curious about that you might have seen in r/short, any discussions about being married to people who insist on using the top shelf in the kitchen cabinets? Because this has been a perpetual source of strife in my marriage, because my husband, who is 6 feet even, doesn't see any sense in leaving those shelves empty.
Why
because
don't you just
there.
keep a stool in the kitchen like me?
Yeah, we have a stool in our kitchen.
I also have we have a step stool in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm just like cooking away and I'm just like, where is everything? And I have to go and get the step stool. I'm like, please don't put everything up there. And he's like, but they're free. So he's not even
marriage is about compromise.
It is. Marriage is about compromise.
I wouldn't even be, honestly, I don't mind being short. I've come around on now. I'm like, I guess it's cute. I think the only reason I had such bitter feelings is because I grew so fast when I did grow. Like when I was like 15, 16, I was taller than everyone else because I did all my growing just suddenly. And so in my head, I'm like, I guess I'm tall. And then that was it. You topped out. No more for you.
Yeah, I never had a growth spurt. I remember there was actually a period in middle school. I know this is scintillating conversation, chat. Sorry. There's a period in middle school where my knees began to really hurt. And I'm talking about, I got a doctor's note to not do PE for a while because my knees were constantly hurting. And I was like, oh, wow, this must be the growth spurt everyone talks about. Here it comes. No, idiot. You're 5'4". Shut up.
Oh no, my growth spurts caused my dad and the principal to get into a fight.
What?
I was outgrowing my shirts.
Oh, that kind of growth spurt.
Yeah, I was well no, it was tall too, because I mean that does cause you to be taller than your shirts can cover. But my parents
So you were like bearing midriff?
That and
unintentionally?
Basically, that and other things.
I don't understand. You'll need to explain in more
Basically,
detail.
bearing midriff, and if I reached up, flashing people. It was.
That's a short shirt.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
It was a bad time. Well, we were poor, and everyone got hand-me-downs. But when you're illness, you don't get hand-me-downs. You just get your clothes forever. And principal's like, she's breaking dress code, and my dad was like, basically, okay. Just for a quick reference, my dad's an asshole. Anyway, he accused the principal of being a pervert. And that's how that argument went down. So that sucked.
That's great. Yeah. That's a fun time for everyone involved.
Yeah, I loved middle school.
Middle school?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Some people mature earlier than others.
Mature is the wrong word. I was a shit.
But yeah, enough tall talk, enough short talk. Enough. We have to find something interesting to talk about before we
turn here's a fun topic. Also from the first time I talked with Ryan. Ryan, you were asking me about, can werewolves transforming power a generator to make perpetual electricity?
That does sound exactly like a question I would have. When your answer was?
My answer was that the werewolves burn a lot of calories when they shift. So while theoretically you would spend a lot of cost on food. So it might not be cost effective.
So it's not free energy,
Yeah.
So here's another question. Werewolf transformation is triggered by the moon. So that has to have something to do with either the light from the moon reflected from the sun or the position of the moon. Either case, can a werewolf, if a werewolf is moving at the speed of the Earth's rotation, could he or she avoid becoming a werewolf or trigger back and forth at will by just dancing across the international werewolf line, which is constantly moving at the speed of the Earth's rotation?
So that depends on, well, at least for my werewolves, they can eventually learn to control their transformations, and it does not depend on the moon. But like if they're untrained, yes, they could theoretically do that by going past the werewolf full moon line.
So if you were an astronaut and landed on the moon, and were also, unbeknownst to you, a werewolf, you would discover when you left Earth and could have vision of the moon? Would you discover during the solar night? Like, when do you, in space, how do you know you're a werewolf?
Important questions.
So the important questions. So I think it would depend on the position of the rocket, because if we are extending that werewolf international line outward, it would just like extend outwards. Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense. So then it's like Earth has a beacon that's sweeping across the cosmos. On one side you're werewolf, and one side you're not. So if I'm on a distant planet, could I be a werewolf for like 10 milliseconds as that beacon sweeps across me?
You could.
So the moon is special, like Earth's moon is special for werewolves.
Yes, Earth's moon is special. And this is also only modern werewolves, because every werewolf myth before the 1940s Wolfman movie does not use the full moon as the trigger for werewolf transformation.
Oh, what does it use?
Sometimes it is a magic coat or a magic belt. Frequently they're just cursed, and it happens like every night. So, and then there's old myths where an old Irish myth that the book, that the movie Wolfwalkers is based off of, it was people were cursed to be a wolf for 7 years, and then a human for 7 years, and then a wolf for 7 years.
I'm learning a lot tonight.
I know so much about werewolves.
Clearly.
Wow.
So this is I find this fascinating, because I was recently reading about the Incredible Hulk, who is one of Marvel's famous strongmen, and nowadays he gets mad and he becomes a Hulk, and you wouldn't like him when he's angry. But originally it was a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde comes out at night thing.
Really?
Yeah, and so they were like tying Bruce Banner up in the basement, being like, "I hope this holds him." Then he'd become the Hulk. I'm like, "Oh no, it didn't hold him. Now he's a Hulk again." And then
I think
for a while, it was
him
stress.
being angry is a better narrative device.
Was this when he was gray?
Oh yeah, in the first appearance he was gray, and then he was green, but it was still at night when he was green. It just remarkably, if you look at early Marvel heroes, a lot of them are kind of there. Like Spider-Man's basically there, Captain America's basically there. Hulk is like a rough draft, a first draft. He doesn't get the you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. Like anger takes a really long time to show up in the book, and now it's such a central part of the character. So the werewolf thing made me think of that, because like we think of the full moon. I have all these moon questions, but I know you could just get a special belt or put on the wrong jacket at a party and you're a werewolf.
Really simplifies things.
Because the full moon thing is, and so this is stuff that like whenever someone is like, that's not how real werewolves work. I've always been tempted to make a nonfiction book that's called "There's No Such Thing as Real Werewolves." And then go over like in comics like all this mythological history, because the full moon in the Wolfman movie is because he gets bit at the beginning, so the full moon coming out is just supposed to be a ticking clock to build tension. And a problem with a lot of werewolf movies is they want to get to the werewolf transformation, but they're insisting on sticking to the full moon thing. So they have all this time that is basically just leaving the writer and the audience going, when are we going to get to the fireworks factory?
And
so
it's
before,
just not necessary.
Yeah. And so before there were a couple of werewolf movies before the 1940s Wolfman where it was just moonlight. So the guy could stay inside as long as moonlight doesn't touch him, he's fine. And that's what Meredith McLaren and I are using for the werewolf graphic novel we're working on together.
For Iron Circus Comics.
Yes, for Iron Circus Comics. I am halfway through writing it now. So, and then the special coats or special belts, once you get to old enough stories, it is hard to tell if they're a werewolf story, because old stories don't really distinguish between witches and werewolves. Because if you have a magic belt that lets you turn into a wolf, like how does that make you different from a wizard that's doing other spells all over the place?
I thought you were going to say it's hard to tell because everyone was so much hairier back then. And I was like,
no.
Real quick question. What is the belt made from?
Usually it's wolf skin.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So everyone here is enough of a dork to know about the Icelandic witch pants, right?
No.
Or was it money pants? No, it was money pants. Basically, I think there's one pair in existence. It's something like if you go and you get the body of a hanged man and you slice off all of his skin from his waist down in one piece, like it's a pair of pants, and you tan it so you can wear it like pants, and you put a coin in the scrotum, you will become rich.
Okay, I did have a question about the dick. Yeah, okay. So you answered my question. Okay.
You have to keep it. You have to keep it all intact in one piece. Because apparently, if you mess it up, it doesn't work. It needs to be one piece, and the scrotum needs to be empty so you can put money in it. And then I guess you wear it. I don't know. It's a thing. Icelandic witch pants. Let me Google that.
This dude's not my size.
Well, that's why you got to make sure you get a big enough hung dude. Icelandic witch.
The wolf belt or the wolf coat is usually made out of wolf skin. And then, like I said, there's a lot where it's just a curse. In the first Cautionary Fables and Fairy Tales, the European one, I made a French folktale, Bisclarvet, into a comic. And in that one, the guy turns into a wolf each night and he can't change back until he finds his clothes. And so his wife hides his clothes, so he is stuck as a wolf for several years while she fools around with someone else.
Sorry, chat.
And then
I feel like fooling around, like cheating on your husband when he's a wolf is more dangerous.
Short-sighted.
Yes.
Also, they are called corpse britches. Corpse britches.
And then the Irish myth one is supposed to be that St. Patrick cursed the pagans to turn into wolves, because if you're not going to be Christian, you might as well be an animal, is sort of the message for it.
According to Hannah in the chat, another name is Nabroke or the Necropants.
Necropants.
The Necropants.
That's my favorite band from Sweden, Necropants.
It's fun how much stuff, supernatural stuff, we take as a given that was formed for the movie industry or some sort of entertainment to save money. Like vampires getting burnt by the sun is because the Nosferatu movie ran out of money. And that was a cheap way to kill him.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I was about to be like, what does that have to do with it running out of money? But if, they can go, no, and then cut to a pile of ashes.
Yeah, basically it was because Nosferatu is just Dracula with the serial numbers filed off, to the point where they did get sued by Bram Stoker's estate.
And lost.
And they lost. But Dracula ends with a big fight. It's an off-screen fight, but they were planning to do a big fight at the end of Nosferatu, and then they did not have the money to do it. So it's like, what if the sun comes up and that kills him? So that was the solution.
Genesis Evangelion their way out of the ending.
Yes, basically. Yeah. And also a lot of vampires have retractable teeth in media because it's easier for actors to talk that way.
Yeah, I remember you told me that, and I told you about a guy I saw who was being interviewed on some like trashy tabloid TV show, and he had actually gotten like caps. He had gotten his teeth bonded with actual real fangs permanent in his mouth. And he talks like this because he was talking around these big long teeth.
I think that was in a previous episode, and I mentioned I understand because I was one of the hot topic teens who bought the moldable fangs that you could custom mold to your teeth, and I wore those to school twice and never again.
Oh, bless. This is, by the way, this is extremely off topic. I'm so sorry, but we've been talking about that. I know, right? Who would have thought? This is, I don't know why this is happening to me suddenly, but I was trying to have a moment to myself. I was trying to have a moment to myself today, and I suddenly remembered a film called Return to Oz. Does anyone else remember that?
No.
Yeah.
Because
I've seen Return to Oz recently. Because I was trying to see how faithful it was to the book.
Ryan, there's this movie. In case it sounds like you hadn't seen it. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, it's called Return to Oz, and the best way to describe it is it's made for kids, but there is a 0% chance any child understood what was going on in it. And I went back and I looked up clips on YouTube, and now I fully understand and appreciate this movie. It is based on some other Oz books, because obviously Frank Baum, after Wizard of Oz did really well, he was basically a machine. He just churned out Oz books for the rest of his life. And this one kind of like compounded a few Oz books, and it was not terrifying as a child, but incomprehensible to me as a child. And I just kind of kept waiting for it to make sense, and it never did. And
they cut out all the gay stuff.
Well, I all I remember from it's like there was these things called gnomes, but they weren't like garden gnomes. They were basically claymation talking rock faces. And then there was the gnome king, who every time he killed someone, he became slightly more human. And apparently the whole thing was an allegory for destroying the imagination of children. I recommend everybody like look up Return to Oz and watch it, and it's a lot. I'm not doing it justice, but basically Dorothy is given or attempted to be given electroshock therapy because when she comes back from Oz, she tells everyone about it. And the aunt and uncle who she lives with are like, oh boy. And they take her to a literal fucking asylum to give her electroshock therapy. But then she escapes. And when she escapes the asylum, she's suddenly back in Oz with a talking chicken. God, this sounds like I'm insane.
Yeah,
but no,
that's what happens. But is that any more like sensical than a talking scarecrow? Or
yeah,
like,
that's kind of the thing. That's kind of the thing. Like I think we're all kind of numb to the whole talking scarecrow, talking tin man, talking lion, flying monkey thing because it's just been hammered into us from birth so hard. We're all there's nothing interesting about that anymore. And then like Return to Oz shows up and there's these things called the Wheelers who are these people who are quadrupedal but have wheels for hands and feet and just skate along and they're like the bad guys and they just chase you and it seems like nightmare fuel. It's just
Chat confirms it is a nightmare fodder.
Yeah, it's really fucking strange. And I was just thinking about it, Kel, because you were talking about weird movie shit, and that has been kind of at the forefront of my mind for the past 2-3 days.
Well, also they cut out all the gay shit. Like I said, because
are you talking about Pip?
I forget the character's name, but he's secretly Princess Ozma.
Pip, yeah.
And then he gets turned into a girl and they run off and be lesbians together. Like, so and Pip's always like, I always felt like there was something wrong with me. And then it's like, oh, it's because you're really a princess. You're really a girl, even though everyone told you you were a boy. And then they run off and are lesbians together, basically.
In the movie, there isn't any Pip, but there is an Ozma. And it turns out it was another girl who was at the insane asylum.
Like I said, they cut out the gay shit.
I'm going to actually show you folks a picture too. Hold on. Oh God, I should be fucking doing this. But oh God.
But yeah,
I
Ryan,
see it. I can Google it. A big
folklore stuff is fascinating in how it develops and like what we take for granted as like OG each movie monster or whatever.
There was this one super horrible part in it where like all the characters decided they needed a vehicle. So they got a couch and they got a taxidermy moose head and they strapped the taxidermy moose head to the front of the couch and they gave it like palm frond wings. And then they sprinkled this magic powder on it and the moose head came alive and the couch was its body and it could flap the palm fronds and fly. But the thing I wanted to show you, I'm going to drop it in the Discord, is there's a character in it who's called TikTok the One Man Army, who's just this wind up brass man. This is so fucking weird that I'm even talking about this, but he has a person in him. And I just want you to behold what it's like to be puppeteering TikTok the One Man
my
Army.
Nightmare.
He is bent over double with his face in his crotch and he has to walk like that. And there's apparently
God.
Yeah, there's a little monitor under his ass so he can see where he's going. And they had to like shoot every scene in 3-minute increments or else he would start to suffocate.
Jesus Christ, it is my nightmare come to life. No.
Anyway, I don't know why I'm bringing that up. It's just movie shit and it's so fucking weird.
But yeah, so folklore stuff as it develops over time is fascinating. Like
But anyway, go watch Return to Oz, everyone. No one
like, for werewolves, like silver didn't even come into play until movies, really.
Yeah, you can kind of tell by how sloppy I feel like that part of it is. Like how you kill a werewolf feels like there's a couple different ways to do it. They don't really jive together that well. Same with vampires, where it's like, all right, we got I think silver bullets have also been for vampires. We got garlic.
Well, so
we
the
got
deal
sunlight.
is
We got a
like,
cross.
so with silver usually gets tacked onto stuff because in general, in a lot of cultures, silver was like a purifying, warding off
pure
evil metal.
Mhm.
So
It does have antimicrobial property.
That is true. So you should definitely drink a lot of it. You should drink a lot of colloidal silver. Everybody.
Blue's a good look.
It won't turn.
Yeah,
Papa's
so
Smoke is the role model.
It's interesting, like where stuff like ends up coming from or whatever. Obviously, I've dedicated my life to being a werewolf expert.
That's why.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I have started considering myself a movie expert strictly due to all the movie crap I've been watching on YouTube. There's so many
nice
people.
to be an expert at something useful.
I know, right?
Not Sonic the Hedgehog.
A lot about Star Trek. Yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog, Star Trek. We got stuff.
Yeah, the one thing I know about Star Trek is like, oh god, I can't even like say this anymore. It's so completely out of date. Star Trek was one of those things where it didn't actually get its hooks into me. And for a while, when there were only 3 movies, and importantly, I hadn't seen any of them for like 15 years. I liked Star Wars. And I was one of those people who went to the midnight viewing of the new Star Trek movie back when George Lucas still owned everything.
You said Star Wars, you mean?
Oh, sorry, Star Wars movie.
You made the mistake.
I made the mistake. And that cured me of that real fast. And I haven't been to Star Wars since. But the one thing I know about Trek is the thing I regurgitate on the Geek Show constantly, which is there are dolphins on those ships. And I know that.
Yeah, Lower Decks showed the dolphins.
Yeah, because they're animated. It's cheap. You can show a dolphin on Lower Decks.
Yeah, no, I love Lower Decks. I mean, I did the Lower Decks comic. One thing I like for doing Lower Decks comic was suddenly all this years of watching Star Trek when I thought I was goofing off. Yeah. Suddenly, it's a skill. It was research. I am ready to write a Star Trek comic.
Yeah,
all I needed was to watch 60 years of television.
So what comics have you written other than obviously dinosaur comics?
Gosh. Dinosaur comics, Squirrel Girl, Fantastic Four, Lower Decks. I did a Power Pack miniseries. I did a Kid Constantine middle grade graphic novel. We took Constantine and made him a little boy, which was a lot of fun. Hold on, let me pull up my website. So
that's one of those ones where, like, now I don't ever want to read it because what popped into my head, it's like, no, I must preserve that.
What pops
in one scene, he has a shirt that says Heck Blazer, which was all Derek charm and so great.
No, Kel, it's a mental. It's not like I'd have to draw. It's just a silly mental image, and I'd want it to live forever.
I really appreciated that you gave him a lollipop addiction rather than cigarettes.
We're not going to show a 6-year-old or whatever he is, 7-year-old, 8 or 10 smoking cigarettes. Not even candy cigarettes. He had a lollipop and 6 sticks there. That was the first choice I made about the character. And then also Adventure Time and again.
Gross.
I got in so much trouble in middle school because I got a candy cigarette and I walked down the hallway smoking my candy cigarette and I blew the smoke from the candy cigarette in a teacher's face, not even thinking. And I got the heavy hand on my shoulder. And then I got in trouble in high school because I bought my parents bought fancy Cokes, like fancy sodas, in a glass container that looked like booze. And the teachers thought it was booze. And then they smelled it and like, this is just cola. You can go. This is just a candy cigarette. He's just being a dick.
I made my brother mad because I ate the candy cigarette too fast. He's like, it doesn't work if you eat it. And I was like,
yeah,
but it's candy.
My brother takes like fruit by the foot and just takes a bite out of it. Like, you have to unroll it. The whole point is to unroll it.
Yeah, you don't get the full effect. You got to savor it.
I know, but I was an idiot. And I liked candy.
I mean, candy cigarettes.
My most
taste like candy. They're just
they were bad. They were bad.
My most important candy lesson was not cigarette related. Okay, so like I grew up in the suburbs, and literally the only thing to do in the suburbs is go to the mall. And the mall that we went to most often had a dedicated candy shop that was like trying really hard to look whimsical and stuff. And one of the things that they sold front and center were not everlasting gobstoppers, but jawbreakers that were like slightly larger than golf ball size.
And I love those.
Yeah,
choking hazards.
And as a child, I would, we would walk by that store constantly, and I'd see that, and it became this sort of aspirational thing that I wanted one day to get. And a few years later, when I had my own money, I went in and I bought that fucking jawbreaker, and I couldn't get it in my mouth because it was too big. So I was sitting there sucking on the jawbreaker for at least a week, at least.
Oh, never mind.
And it became kind of the candy equivalent of that old-fashioned punishment that you hear about where you catch the kids smoking, so you make them smoke the whole pack. And I'd just be sitting there, and I just I regret this decision. This is not what I thought it would be. Clearly, I had built this up to something in my mind that it could never live up to.
My brother got one.
Yeah, I don't think I've had a jawbreaker since. I was curious.
This is what happened to my brother because he got one for Christmas. Giant jawbreaker, and he just started licking it like a little boy in a sailor uniform lollipop thing. And he licked it so much that he wore the skin off his tongue. His tongue started to bleed. He was like, "I love candy. I'm not going to stop."
So I thought both of y'all.
Facebook
Sorry, I thought one of y'all was gonna tell a story that was basically what happened to my sister, and neither of y'all did. So we have 3 separate giant gumball jawbreaker tragedies.
Yeah, it's not good candy, and it teaches lessons.
Well, my sister did get it stuck in her mouth, but the problem is it's big enough that if you get it past your teeth, you cannot get it back out again.
Yeah.
So
what happened?
Doctor. We had to take her to the doctor, and they kind of had to sedate her so she would unclench her jaw because she was too freaked out to unclench her jaw.
Oh, that's a shame.
Well, the punchline of this story is that was a great experience for Victor to have so much candy, this giant candy that his tongue bled. And so he had a child years later, and I bought one for his child. And I'm like, your father, when he was your age, licked this till his tongue bled. And they took it away from him.
Back when Facebook groups were fun and Facebook wasn't a hell site.
Never.
I remember that there was a Facebook group that was I ate Sour Patch Kids until my tongue bled.
Oh yeah.
Because that is definitely how acidic those are. Will make your tongue bleed if you eat enough of them. But that's one where you only have yourself to blame because you could have stopped before that happened, and you decided, no, I need more Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah, I value that jawbreaker in a sort of, it's in an educational capacity, but ever since then, I acknowledge they're bad candy. I will insist they're bad candy. It wasn't even good. And I have to think in my own way, I kind of got the same experience as maybe somebody who's, middle-aged, kind of more years behind than ahead, goes down to the dealership and buys a Jaguar, and he's all like, there, I have it. After all my dreams and after all my thinking about it, here is my Jaguar. And instead of just, falling out of love with it over the course of a week, he realizes that, it costs $5,000 to get the tires changed or something. And he's all like, this is not what I thought it would be. But fortunately, I learned that with a jawbreaker, so I don't have to wind up learning it.
This jawbreaker was a formative moment for you.
It was. It honestly changed the way I felt about candy.
Learned a lot about the world and myself.
Exactly. It could be a children's book.
See, that was me in the dip can.
The disappointing.
Oh no! Fuck you! You have to tell Ryan about the dip can.
I don't have to.
You have to. It's so nasty.
The short version is my uncle spit dip into empty soda cans, and I was
what's dip?
Chewing tobacco.
You have to spit the tobacco out.
No, yeah, I see it in images from the 1920s of baseball players.
Yeah, that's what my
It's
uncle
hard.
did.
They spit. Oh
And
no, you drank the
I was
dick
a
can?
trusting little idiot, and I was just like, yeah, this can is because I used to like steal my mom and my grandpa's sodas because then they didn't care, and I made that mistake once, and I stopped stealing people's sodas.
Oh god.
Grossest thing I've had in my mouth
Oh!
was I was on my bike as a teen, lived in a rural area, driving bike down the road, and I noticed a dead mouse directly in front of me, too late to do anything to avoid hitting it.
Oh.
And I go over and the mouse pops and some juice
Oh.
lands on my lips as I'm going, no.
Gross, gross,
It's
gross.
just you feel your soul leaving your body.
Oh my god, it's so
What's the worst
disgusting.
thing others have had in their mouths?
God.
Anyway, let's go back to talking about Star
Cal,
Trek.
answer him.
Answer the question.
Answer him.
Worst thing in your mouth.
I don't remember.
Oh god. Well, I think octopus guts.
On purpose?
Fair.
Yeah. See, the thing is, you ever go to a restaurant so fancy they don't actually do what they're supposed to do with their seafood? Because I guess that's how fancy restaurants do. I ordered the octopus thinking they were gonna clean it, because that's what you fucking do when you cook octopus. You don't cook them with their guts in. But I guess
you got like a whole octopus.
I got a whole baby octopus.
Oh no.
Yeah, and I
no.
assumed they'd cleaned it. And when I bit down, I felt a lot. I felt a lot. And I eat seafood. I like seafood. So I know what octopus, when you chew on it, is what it's supposed to feel like. And it did not feel like that. And I ate one of those baby octopuses because, you can't spit it out. It was a fancy restaurant. So I sat there, and there is oh, thank you for laughing at my pain. But there's this story. I'm sure since this is like a Poindexter exclusive live stream here, we've all heard it. But there is a dish that is illegal in France, but is considered the quintessential French dish.
Oh, the nasty cheese.
Orlan. No, and basically what it is, it's a little songbird, and what they do is they catch
the little nasty cheese.
They catch the little songbird, Amanda.
Oh no.
And listen carefully. They put its eyes out, and then
not listening anymore.
Keep it in a cage in the dark. And the thing about the Orlan is that when it's blind and in a cage, they think it's always nighttime, and for some reason that makes them eat. And so they eat and eat and eat and eat and eat until they're little tiny fat blind birds.
What was our policy about stories that make Amanda sad?
And then it's drowned in cognac. And it's cooked whole. And the thing about the Orlan is
the policy spike, the contract you agreed to.
When you eat it, you're supposed to it's served on it with a big napkin. When you eat it, you're supposed to put the napkin over your head and lean over the plate. And there are two stories why you do that. One is so you can catch all the aroma of the bird, and the second is so God doesn't see you eating the innocent bird. Yeah. And you're supposed to eat it all in one bite because it's that small.
Okay.
And that was my Orlan experience, a fucking ungutted baby octopus at a fancy restaurant.
So you look up...
Ryan.
Sorry, go on. Yes.
In Star Trek, a replicator made one of these birds. Is that vegan?
So there's a problem with your question, which is that replicators can't create living matter. They use a lower resolution scanner, so you have single bit errors in the genetic code, which prevents it from making living things.
He's got you there.
But the bird's already dead when you're supposed to eat it. So it can't make even the dead bird.
Just making you can make a full dead bird.
Yeah, so you can make the meal.
Vegan? Well, I mean, why stop at birds, right? If you program the replicator to give you a human flesh steak, is that vegan? In my mind, yes. And I looked into it for my own reasons because I had this whole complaint, this rant I had. I had a type 5 on okay, you go back to video games. The first radio shows are based on plays. TV shows are based on radio shows. The old medium carries in the new one. You look at the first video games, stuff like Pong, it's based on the existing sports. And I was like, why don't we not have sports games based on sports that can't exist in the real world? And we started to get those. And so I was like, okay, well, why don't we have like artificial flavors? It's always like, this is raspberry, this is blueberry flavored. I want to taste like unicorn flesh. I want human flesh flavored candy. Where is the cannibal candy?
Mm-hmm.
And so there was some guy in Silicon Valley who made what he claimed was human flavored tofu for cannibals who are curious or trying to quit, which I admit is a great line.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it anymore. It was a stunt. It probably didn't taste like human flesh. I forget why I started talking about you. Oh, replicators, yeah. So I think if you replicated human flesh on the Enterprise, the Cerritos, most of what they eat is reprocessed molecules on the ship. So I think it's vegan as much as any. The important part of veganism, I think, is not the flavor. I mean, I'm not vegan, but I feel like if you ask a vegan, I'm like, oh no, the flavor is what's forbidden. It's the killing of animals that's forbidden.
Yeah.
If you're not killing animals to make it, I think it counts as vegan. It's ethical human flesh. So I would say vegan, go for it.
Yeah, there's actually a pretty fascinating, and by fascinating, I mean like kind of weird, debate among some of the stricter vegans about white sugar. And the belief among, not universal at all, everyone, like vegans are not monolith, but the belief among some of them is that white sugar is not vegan because sugar processing is actually an incredibly involved and long process, and part of it involves bone ash. And that's part of how they get sugar white. Therefore, since white sugar is made with bone ash and bone ash comes from animals, white sugar is not vegan. Now, if you accept that, think of the Matrix, that scene where the room fills with guns, but think of it in the backwards way, where you walk into a grocery store and all the aisles shoot away from you into the distance because they are now all filled with shit you cannot have. Like you can't eat 90% of what's in the grocery store now because it has white sugar in it, including a bunch of stuff that does call itself vegan. And watching these debates go down is kind of at parts heartwarming and also terrifying because it's made up of people who really do want to make a difference. And it's also made up people who are kind of like twitchy-eyed in their purity obsessions. So
yeah, I kind of love the idea that starts so simple. Like, I'm just not going to eat food that involves suffering.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, wait, there's nothing for me here.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, like, because since veganism is supposed to be nothing from an animal, like there are arguments about you shouldn't eat honey because bees make it, even though, like, as far as animals can consent to humans taking something from them, like bees letting you harvest honey is the closest we can get to an animal consenting to us taking what they're giving. Because if a beekeeper's bad at being a beekeeper, the bees will just leave.
Fair enough.
So you have to be good.
I mean, they can just.
Yeah. So whereas like
sometimes
bees don't need you. They're staying because they want to, or like most of the time. Yeah. So if you taking honey, they're not bothered by that. Otherwise, they'd leave. But yeah, so I've seen vegans argue about whether or not honey is vegan, because it's supposed to be no animal products, not just is the animal suffering involved. Because like sheep need to get sheared or
they'll die.
Yeah.
And see, this is like, God, we are at like a weird intersection here because I have had discussions with like other folks. I wish my husband were here because we have discussions about this sometimes. We're both meat eaters. We try to be ethical about that, but you know, no ethical consumption under capitalism, blah blah blah. That's not an excuse to not try, but you know, we try. But at the same time, we talk a lot because I live in the city, and in the city, people tend to favor certain dog breeds over other dog breeds. And the dog breeds they tend to favor are small. And sometimes
I was just gonna get to food.
very flat faced. And we discuss the ethics of continuing to perpetuate animals that need surgery at birth. And I just like, I see the attraction of really cute flat-faced dogs. I have neighbors that own French bulldogs. They're amazing. They're adorable. I also feel they should not have been brought into the world. This is like only tangentially attached to animal ethics, but it's like a thing I think about because when you're out and about in the city, you see these little high maintenance dogs a lot. And
I'm gonna. I
they
don't
look
think.
comfortable.
I am gonna say, Spike. I don't think that's a city thing.
Oh, really?
No, it's not a city thing.
Everyone loves those little dogs. Yeah, everyone loves those little dogs.
Yeah, but like one of the discussions we have is like, okay, if you're gonna sit there and be all like, these are dogs that they can't give natural birth, they can't breathe, their eyeballs pop out of their heads, you know, their spines are twisted, they can't walk, they all fucking are suffocating all the time. Okay. So you're gonna say that's not a great dog breed to have alive. Okay, fine. But where is the cutoff? Because
I don't think there is one.
Yeah, it's like there are dogs who need their hair cut or they'll turn into giant matted mops. And there are dogs that have severe like skin allergies. Like, do we stop breeding those dogs? Do we stop breeding, you know, the other dogs? It's like we have simultaneously done dogs a massive disservice and also elevated them beyond the wildest dreams of their wolf ancestors. So it's like
this is where I land on it. Is that I feel like we owe them a duty of care.
Yeah.
In that we have created this animal. And then even stuff like pugs where like this animal is obviously an extreme example of human directed evolution and would not survive in the wild. And the traits would not last in the wild because they're maladaptive. But even just like a regular average dog, the dog you see when you picture the word dog in your head, like I feel like it's
a golden retriever wouldn't make it.
Yeah. But there's some beauty there and also some duty there. Like we have to take care of dogs having created them.
I agree.
I told Spike about this earlier today, but do you know about werewolf cats?
Oh, likewise?
Go on.
Those poor things.
They're cats that look like werewolves. Like their fur, they have parts of their skin exposed and it makes it look like old-timey werewolf makeup, which is why they are called werewolf cats, or lycos. They're super weird looking. But apparently the thing that makes their fur pattern that way is because they're prone to like weird skin diseases.
Oh, great.
So a friend was, I saw on Tumblr someone talking about like, I was in this Lyco cat like fan group, which started with all these adorable pictures of them as kittens, or as adorable as this breed gets. Whether or not they're adorable is arguable. And it slowly turned into a horror show as almost every cat that was bought by someone in this group, they're sharing pictures of as they get older, they get more and more gross skin lesions that are bleeding or infected all the time. And it's like, this is a breed that should not exist.
Yeah. But the thing is, I have also at one point in my life, I have owned a dog that had no fur whatsoever. It was bred that way to have no fur. And there were definitely people who let me know, they were all like, yeah, that should not exist. And it's like,
your dog's an abomination. How you doing?
Exactly. And it's like, why not? It's like, well, you know, it could never survive in the wild that way. It's like your husky couldn't survive in the wild. Your golden retriever couldn't survive. It's a dog.
Good news. It lives in good news. It lives in a condo in Chicago.
Exactly. And it's like even the wildest dogs out there, like the pariah dogs on the edges of rural villages in Mongolia or whatever. If the humans disappeared, they wouldn't survive either. They're dogs. That's not a justification. It's like my dog was hairless, but he didn't suffer, you know? He could breathe.
God,
But
it's that way with most domestic animals. Like I remember someone was like, "How could like?" Because I keep rats, and people have been like, "Well, how can you tell like a wild rat from a domestic one?" Like, a wild rat
gosh.
will run from you. A domestic rat, if let loose, will try to find the nearest human and waddle up to them for food. They
Yeah.
don't know how to not get food from people. That's what they
I
do.
remember you were telling me about one of your favorite things in movies is if there's like a sewer scene or whatever.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's clear there's supposed to be this moment where the protagonist is horrified because, a rat drops down on them from a pipe. And the only rat available to the production is like this 2-pound fatty fat
Yeah.
rat that is clearly domesticated because it's like a black and white rat, and it just like drops onto the shoulder to like, hello. It doesn't have
just like
greetings.
I love it when you'll have them like scurrying in the foreground or the background, and like they'll make these scurrying sound effects go on, but they're just like dum 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 dum
waddling their fat butts side to side. Yeah.
Ryan, I shared a picture of one of the werewolf cats.
That cat's ugly, Cal.
I would absolutely fall for that scam. I love that cat.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
and that is the best they look. That is literally the best they look. They only get more horrible looking with age. They just lose all their
they bleed
So
everywhere.
do we all.
And bleed.
I feel like there's a difference between like this dog has no hair, like but he didn't constantly bleed everywhere. Like that's a big problem. Like,
yeah. Yeah, and
well, there's also different causes for hairlessness. Sometimes its hair doesn't grow at all. Sometimes, for example, like not to bring it back to rats, this is all I know. When you have a hairless rat, most of the time they actually do grow fur. They're what's called a double rex, where their fur grows in so curly it breaks off before it can get too long. So they technically produce hair, they just shed it instantly because it just breaks. And it's that way with some other breeds of different kinds of animals, and some just cannot produce fur. And I guess in the case of these cats, they just are sick.
Yeah,
they're sick. They should not exist.
Yeah. And there's oh god, okay, this is some ancient ass shit, but
how dare you?
Does anyone remember Twisty Cats?
No.
Okay. There was a woman. All right. So there is this weird arms race among, I mean, let's just call it what it is, backyard breeders who
How sad will this make me?
I don't know, honestly. It's a weird one. There's like an arms race among backyard breeders to establish breeds, which is like, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works, meme. But like that's kind of what they're out to do. And this occasionally strikes gold. 9 times out of 10, dead end. But every once in a while, you do actually establish a air quotes new breed. Like, for example, the people who started breeding sphinxes, and there are people who breed munchkin cats, which are cats with really, really short legs. And Scottish fold breeders, like they just found this gene and they went with it. And now they have this breed to their name and they're super important and blah, blah, blah. And there are people who kind of like aspire to be that. And there's this one woman.
Folds and munchkins have like spinal problems.
I'm not surprised to hear that. But there's this one woman who aspired to be kind of like part of that esoteric club. She wanted to breathe that rarefied air of the establisher of a breed. And she found a cat which was missing the bones in its front leg.
Oh no!
Like both its front legs.
No.
Okay, we're gonna stop this story.
And a kangaroo hopped to get her around.
No.
And she started bleeding it. And she called them Twisty Cats. And the wrath of the internet needed to come down on her to tell her, like, no, this isn't cool. And she'd always come back with, like, you people breed dwarf cats and you breed cats without fur. It's like, why is this not okay? And it's like, please don't have this conversation with us. Just stop breeding literal crippled cats.
But
yeah,
the answer
that's
was
old.
very sad.
Yeah, I just remember her and just like, wow, what a weird way to pursue your immortality through something like that.
I just make gay porn.
And it's wonderful gay porn, Amanda. Good for you. Anyway.
Thank you.
I do my best.
Hey, I have a question about pornography.
Oh shit.
Go for it. You're in the room with some experts.
You're asking the right people.
Great. So I have done interviews in my time, and I talk about writing comedy, and I have this sort of analogy I go to where I say, okay, well, when I'm writing comedy, I'm trying to make myself laugh, and so I usually write it alone where no one can see me because it's really embarrassing to be typing at your keyboard and going, ho ho ho, what a good joke, me, like that's embarrassing. So I do where no one can see me, but I realize that I'm relying on my body's response to tell me when I'm doing it right, and I assume that the only other genre that works like that, because horror, you don't. There's no like horror organ that gets larger.
Recoil from your page, like I can't look at it.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you're writing erotica, you're writing porn, you would have an idea of like, oh, I must be getting pretty close to a good scene here because I can tell the same way I can tell when something's funny. Is that true, or am I whistling Dixie?
It depends.
Can't speak for the room, but since I have the privilege of pretty much exclusively producing smut that I am personally into, I know if it's working. I'm like, yeah, this is good. And if it does nothing for me, I have to go back and rewrite because that's my warning.
Okay.
I'm like 30 pages in and I'm fucking bored with what I'm making. I'm like, okay, this is clearly not working.
You got to go back and make these people sexier.
Well, I mean, if you're bored with whatever you're writing, like that,
to be fair,
that you're on a bad track.
I disagree with that because sometimes you just have to push through.
Oh?
I mean, I've written stuff I like, but when it came time to draw it, I just was not into it anymore. But that's just because I was in a mood.
Sometimes
this is when, in regards to writing, if you're bored while writing it, like
I mean, sometimes you just have to write.
Yeah.
But my answer to the question is, it really depends because like my stuff runs. Like, it depends on what is the focal point. There are certain erotic comics where it was actually the point was more to make jokes. So, like, the sexual acts were more just like, how do we get to the jokey parts, the parts that are cute, if that makes sense. So I kind of was like, that's how it works. It's fine. But there are other times where it's like, yeah, it has to, like, it's not working for me. I'm doing something wrong if it's not working for me personally. Like there was actually a period where I had to like stop because this is gonna sound sad, but I was lonely. I just was, and even just for friendship too. Like I just was this was back when I lived in Texas and I just didn't live near any friends or anything. And so like just being like lonely for friendship made me not want to draw people hugging. So that alone, that was a big oh, shush you, shush. It's just facts. No, it's fine. It's just facts. Anyway, so that was a big barrier to. I couldn't even go further than just drawing people hugging because I got jealous of my drawings. It was very silly.
God.
Shut up, Spike. It was very silly.
I can sympathize. I can be nice
It's not a
about
big deal. It's just a thing that happens to people.
Unwanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me think of dirt. You suck it. Makes me think of you suck it. Makes me think of COVID when people would get on Twitter and talk about being touch starved.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, that's sad.
But it's weird. It's like but the funny thing is I wasn't jealous of like the sex parts. I was jealous of like
hugs.
Must be nice to be the same room as a human. Wow, must be nice. Like,
that is such a bummer, Amanda.
But people go through phases.
I know.
People feel sad.
It's okay to feel sad.
I know. That's why it's not a big deal. You don't have to feel sad right now that I felt sad at some time in the past.
Okay. But I'm also very much on the porn as a legitimate genre, sort of like bandwagon. And I am thinking about what you said, where it's like, if you're reading it and you're bored, that kind of is across the spectrum. And I have this thing that I noticed, and I think you can kind of see it in all the comics I make, where if stuff starts going over 10 pages, and by stuff, I mean like if there's a scene, if there's a room and everyone's having dinner, and I am on page 11 of everyone having dinner, it's like I hear a bartender at 2:15 a.m. in my head just kind of going, "All right, wrap it up. Come on, get out." Because I'm like, okay, do I need to linger this long? It's not that I'm like, oh, everyone's got a short attention span. It's just I try to have that philosophy where every scene and every action the character has and everything they say is an opportunity to move the plot along. Emphasis on move the plot. And don't spend any longer in one spot of the story than you are required to. Like, we all have characters we love, and we love to do the AU coffee shop bullshit where they're all super cute at each other and super sassy at each other. And isn't it funny? Isn't it charming? Don't they have wonderful chemistry? Yes, cute. Wrap it up. Shut up.
I will say it is funny to have, like, especially when I miss conventions, but when I would have conversations with people at cons, they would always ask, like, "Oh, is it fun to always write porn? Like, it must always be exciting." And it's like, I mean, there are some, like, when I was doing Slipshine, I was doing like once a month, and there were months where it's like, "Oh, I just did that one to get a paycheck." I'm proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. Sometimes it's like, I mean, I made it. I'm proud of it. It exists.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just do the thing.
Right on. It's like, pterodactyl record player stuff. It's a living.
Basically. It's just how it is. But
God, no one's going to get that joke.
I
No,
got
I
it,
got
and
it.
I'm
I
an
was like,
idiot.
pterodactyl record player. Then you said it's a living. Like, oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Like the
I'm
pterodactyl
I
record
don't know
player.
nothing.
Or the elephant shower.
Yeah. But I think that's it with anything. Like, I think to always expect that you're always going to be on, and even like work that's good, you're going to in the moment be like, yeah, this is good. Like, you're just not always going to feel that. And you could make something that everyone connects to and everyone really likes, that in the time you were making, you're like, well, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the thing.
I'm obligated.
Ryan, who's your favorite character on Lower Decks?
Oh boy. You're asking me to pick the prettiest star in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's funny because it sounds like a lie, because I wrote a comic for it, so clearly I'm biased, but like, they're all really good. I think my favorite. Oh,
wow.
My new favorite.
My favorite is Rutherford.
Samantha Rutherford. What do you like about him?
I like that he's a big dweeb. He's me. That's it. He's me. Like, there is the episode where they have to relax, and all the engineers just want to work, and that's how they relax. It's like, oh, it's me.
Just for clarification, who is Rutherford?
Yeah.
If you look up Lower Decks, he is the one with the cyborg guy.
He's an engineer, ensign.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's a newer character. She's a new favorite. Lynn, who's a Vulcan, who was sort of fired off her last ship for being too emotional. And it's a great episode, Douche, name of it, because she's just like, she's a Vulcan. She's super unemotional, but compared to the other Vulcans, they're like, you are clearly wild and off the hook. We send all our dead Vulcans to the Federation.
Cannon.
Yeah, you're a loose cannon. You relied on a hunch. Get out of here. Go on a human ship. Which I think is great and hilarious. But they're all good. I mean, Mariner I love. Tendi I love. Boiler I love. They're all great. Just a great cast.
I like the episode where Tendi makes a dog.
That's horrifying.
For Spike and Amanda, she is an alien who has never encountered an Earth dog, and so for her science project, she attempts to make one.
Yeah, you explained that one to me.
Yeah. And at first it seems like a regular golden retriever, and then its head twists around and it scurries up the wall, and she's like, normal dog stuff.
There is a species of person on Star Trek who it's like I could I see I watched like some Next Generation when I was younger, and I don't remember a lot, but I think I remember this one, or maybe it was Lost in Space Star Trek. I don't know. Sorry,
That's different, whole different thing.
Yeah, but the one where the one where they lost
Star Wars Star Trek.
Voyager, that one.
Oh, that's what you were saying.
Yeah, so it's
that's what Spike meant by Lost in Space. Voyager, they're the ones that are lost.
It's been literal decades, but there was one where like there was a whole species of alien, and they were all really, really stupid, and it turned out they had like they stole a spaceship, and they were just like forcing any person they came across to like give them their tech and fly the spaceship for them. What are they called, you said?
The Pakled, Pakled. And the thrilling part is that I believe in season 1 and 2 of Lower Decks, maybe just season 2, they are the big bad, the Pakled. Because they've gotten some really good technology. Like, your ship is good. Make our ship good. Make us go fast.
Okay. Yeah. See, now I'm Googling it. Yeah, I remember them. And I remember there's like this whole bit where they would say things like, we are smart, when they like kidnapped somebody and made them like run the bridge. And then of course they would inevitably get like outsmarted, and they'd be really, really sad about it and be like, we are not smart.
That is exactly them.
They only had the one appearance on TNG, and they were so good. So I'm so glad that Lower Decks brought them back. They're fun.
Good. I'm glad that, because I don't know a ton about Star Trek, but I was afraid maybe in the case of the Pakled, they might do that comic book thing where they just pretend that never happened.
Oh no, Star Trek is all about everything happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything happened. One time, Spock became a giant clone of himself that was 3 stories tall.
The beauty of Lower Decks is that every stupid idea comes back. That's why the dolphins are on the ship. The Paklids are the big bad.
How dare you call the dolphins a stupid idea?
Citation off. Best part of Star Trek.
Yeah, seriously. Most realistic element of space travel.
I also, this is a thing that I appreciated about Lower Decks is, so in a lot of shows, they have the conspiracy theorist guy who is a joke, but then he ends up being right. Like Ronaldo on Steven Universe is sort of right when he is doing his conspiracy theory rambles. And then like that happens repeatedly. And Lower Decks has conspiracy theorists, but all of their things are wrong. And I appreciate that more because, like, while I think Ronaldo is funny in Steven Universe, the result of him being right is kind of like, oh, don't say that conspiracy theory people are right. Like, so the conspiracy theory people that show up in Lower Decks, they're like, the Dominion War was a cover-up and a lie, and so they're basically saying this
never happened.
Yeah, they're basically saying that the second half of DS9 didn't happen, and it was all an elaborate lie and a cover-up. And you, as a Star Trek, someone who has seen Star Trek, is like, no, we saw what happened. Like,
it's real.
This person is nonsense. Yeah. Like,
I did a character at Squirrel Girl I wish I could do more with that had he was a superhero truther, where he's like, no one has powers, it's animatronics, it's all the big conspiracy, it's the media. And it was fun. Like, he's clearly wrong. There's no universe in which he's right. But it was fun to just have a guy who was really, really wrong and refused to admit it. And also he was a bro who was trying to go on a date with Squirrel Girl, with Doreen.
I used to have so much more faith in people, Like, there'd be things I would see online. I know, right? I was such a fool. There would be things I see online where I would just think, no fucking way anyone actually believes that.
No, this is what I believe. They're all children. They're all 12-year-olds.
Everyone. And it like sometimes it's it's explainable, like the motivations people have to believe things. Sometimes they're actually kind of pure, like there are people who will straight up tell you they just want to live in a world where magic is real because that's the only world worth living in to them. And it's like, okay, I mean, on a personal level, I think that's stupid bullshit, but if it gets you to sleep at night, I suppose that's fine, question mark. But there are other people who they believe things that make them hate their families and make their families hate them. And they believe things that make them literally do themselves harm while they're insisting they're fine and they're doing the right thing. And it's the justification for believing it is just non-existent. Like you have to wonder where was the entrance to this rabbit hole you fell down? How did you become this? Because I know you didn't start off talking about, Jewish space lasers or lizard people in the upper echelons of government. That's not step one. I'm always super curious about like step one.
Sophie from Mars did a YouTube video about that.
Oh yeah, step one of winding up an absolute mess.
It was more like conspiracy theories in general, but talking about how they're based on emotion. So they just need so it's like they just need a small thing to validate their emotion, and then that makes them susceptible to bigger things, so on and so forth.
The one like sort of line I've been able to draw myself, because obviously this shit takes years, is I think that a lot of folks who are absolutely off their fucking gourds as we speak right now, they got started down this road as birthers. Like it feels like it's in the Pleistocene, like that's how far away it was. And I'm sorry, Ryan, do you know what a birther is?
Yes, we in Canada, it's kind of like living above a meth lab. You have to keep it down there.
I had to ask because like you said, like you're Canadian, so I don't know how much of that filtered up there. But yeah, there were people who like dedicated their entire lives to this fantasy that Barack Obama was not a legitimate president. And I think once they got sort of waist deep in that, they became susceptible to a lot of things. And that's how we wind up with these people, rolling coal down the highway in a giant F-150 with 20 fuck Joe Biden flags, talking about how just, fuck, I don't even know, Hunter Biden's laptop is full of, Prince Andrew and Epstein and shit.
I feel like those people existed a lot before then. It's the dissemination of information is much faster now, and conspiracy theories can evolve much quicker.
Yeah, and I'm not saying they didn't exist. I think what's happening now is, and I'm trying to figure out a way to say this without sounding awful, but I think indoctrinating people into belief systems that appeal to them because they have pre-existing biases is way more efficient than it's ever been.
Yeah.
Like, I think back in like when we're talking like Unabomber shit, like you had to work to be a real wingnut back in the day. And it was a very solitary endeavor being a massive wingnut back in the day. But nowadays it's a group
you couldn't
effort.
find people,
Ryan, since you're a Canadian, do you know about the Queen of Canada?
We shared the same queen with the rest of the Commonwealth until she died from being
old.
No.
Oh, Ryan!
This is a different queen.
Ryan!
Oh, wait, is this that lady who just
Romana Diddlow? Yeah, Romana Diddlow, the Queen of Canada, and also Earth.
It is time for my bathroom break, because if I hear this one again, I swear to God.
Yeah, oh my God, I always wonder like how big a deal she is in Canada, because I have a very skewed view of her because I follow her Telegram and also, her general exploits. So I don't know how much actual Canadians pay attention to her.
I learned about her because I learned about her because Thought Slime and Sophie from Mars do a YouTube show called Cringe Corner, where they find cringe people on the internet. And one of the episodes was about the Queen of Canada. Because Thought Slime is Canadian, so they got their finger on the pulse of weirdos in Canada.
I know about her because Spike does this thing where Spike asks if I want to know about something, and I tell her no, and she tells me anyway.
The world is so fascinating.
Okay. Also, fun things about Spike is I know Ryan has also seen the picture of my foot right now.
Oh boy.
The big old hole.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I took that picture because I said, "Hey Spike, you like gross things. You want to see the weird hole in my foot right now?"
By the way, Kel, I super didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, Kel, did you show Amanda?
I
put a content warning when I posted it, so
that doesn't work on TweetDeck.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, I want to see what this blurry red spot is.
Yeah.
What's the worst hole you've found in your body?
Oh God. Let's see.
The hole a hockey stick put through my lip.
Ow!
God, that's a big hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was playing floor hockey in school and got smacked in the face with a hockey puck, and it kind of split my lip horizontal. Does that make sense?
Yes. No, I can see it. Those pucks mean business.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go get stitches.
As we say in Canada.
And I only had this is only such a vivid memory because the stitches weren't that bad. Because the only relative available to take me to the doctor was my uncle, and he is one of those people who is literally never serious.
I love him. He sounds great.
Yeah. So I was
good guy for chuckles at the hospital.
Yeah, 13 and crying, and he's like, "Here comes the needle. They're coming at you with the needle."
No.
and I'm like, "Stop!" And he's like, "Oh, they're gonna get you. Oh, there's nothing in the needle. I saw it. They didn't put anything in it. You're gonna feel everything."
Oh.
No, it's funny in retrospect. It was terrible at the time, but now it's funny.
Yeah, when
I learned the word amputate from someone making a joke. I had a cut like, "What's the name of amputate?" And I was like, "What does that mean?"
Oh.
Yeah. In my case, when I was like 5 or 6, it was summertime, so I was wearing sandals, and I'm still not 100% clear on how this happened, but I was running along the hallway from the stairs to my bedroom, and I tripped, and at a perfect angle, somehow a sewing needle, but the kind that has like the big blob of resin on the end, so it's like meant to hold hems together while you run it through the sewing.
A pin.
Yeah, a pin, like a really long pin, wedged itself. It like went under the skin on my toe and then went all the way down to the to like the where the toe stopped and the foot began. And I remember the really sharp pain, and I looked down and I just saw the head, and I remember it was peacock blue. And without really thinking about it, I just grabbed the head and pulled it out and kind of went on my merry way and didn't really think about it. And I remember years later, like literally years later, I learned about tetanus. And of course, everyone hears, "Oh, you get tetanus by stepping on a rusty nail, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, oh no, what if I have tetanus? Without comprehending, idiot, that was years ago. You don't have tetanus.
I have a tetanus story.
Yeah.
Because 10 years ago, I got my tetanus shot. And they're like, "Gotta get this renewed every 10 years." I'm like, "How am I gonna remember 10 years from now?" Like, I haven't used calendar software for 10 years. Stuff changes all the time. So I made a comic about it on Dinosaur Comics. As a joke, I made a Facebook event that was called Self. If you are still on Facebook when this event comes out in 10 years from now, you've made some bad decisions. Also get your tetanus shot again. And that event is 2 weeks from today.
Nice.
Whoa, efficient.
Yeah, so I need to get a tetanus shot, and I've been getting emails people being like, "I signed up for this event 10 years ago, and I just saw it on my radar," and I was like, "Man, I have made some bad decisions if I'm still on Facebook.
Right on. Staying on Facebook, being among those bad decisions.
This didn't happen to me, but it happened to Lynn Vassell. And she told me this story, and ever since it's like, because I sew a lot, and ever since it's been like, I'll self-correct. She had a sewing pin in her mouth and accidentally swallowed it.
No.
And I'll like now I heard that story, and now I'll like be sewing and I'll put the pins in my mouth to hold them, and then I'll pause and go, wait.
On a similar note, but definitely not as dangerous. When I was a little kid,
I was gonna say Ryan hasn't shared his worst hole.
What is your worst hole, Ryan? Tell us about your hole. Tell me about your hole.
The one that comes to mind, I'm not sure if it's the worst, but it's the most memorable, is I had some wrist surgery for something that was similar to carpal tunnel, but not exactly carpal tunnel. And basically there's a cord in your wrist that was rubbing, so it would get inflamed, so it would hurt, and I get like trigger finger, I couldn't close my hand properly. And so the Canadian government gave me 2 experimental injections from our healthcare system, which is steroids. And that worked a bit, but it kept coming back. So like, we're going to have to operate. And so I had this doctor, and I lied down on a bed that was like a cross, so my arms are out. And she gave me a needle and was chatting with the sub doctor, the assistant. And I realized at a certain point, like, I think the operation has started. I don't know. So I'm like, I can look over, but I don't know how I'm going to react. Like, people sometimes faint. I'll be seeing a hole in my wrist, and they'll be cutting stuff out of it. So I staring at the ceiling. I was like, doctor, I'm not sure how to ask this, but am I open right now? Like, oh yeah, look over. It's great. And so I look over, and the bump of my wrist was covering the actual hole. But I just saw like scissors go in and like white and red come out. And they were chatting about their car, and I was like, okay, this is my surgery. This is happening right now. And it was a pretty good hole because my hand works great now, but they only gave me enough painkillers for one day, and it was like a Friday in the morning operation. So I ran out of painkillers Saturday morning. I had to go the whole weekend in quite a lot of pain.
I'll bet.
So
in the end, a good hole, but at the time, an alarming hole.
The on Monday when they put a hole in my foot, I went in to get like this lump looked at, and they're like, we should just take it off now. So apparently this specific type of anesthetic that is super localized, they're like, heads up, it will hurt, and then it will feel like burning. Be prepared. And I was like, okay, I'm very good with getting needles shoved in me. As donating people that I donated blood to recently, like, found out, I was like, just in and out. And so I was like, it's gonna be fine. But then they put it in, and I was like, Jesus Christ! Like, it was. And they were correct that it was painful, and it did burn. It might be the most painful thing I was awake for. It does not hurt now. But similarly, like, they just did this surgery right there and took it out, and now it does not hurt. But it was like getting it anesthetized hurt way more than how it does right now. But
yeah,
no.
Drugs are magic, although I do think, God, again, this is like the result of me watching like 5 PBS specials and shit and following like 2 very specific YouTube channels, but there is this pendulum swing that is going on, and it's constantly going back and forth. And, you know, there are a million complicating factors, and I am far from an expert. I just have a bunch of bullshit opinions. But we kind of seem to be back in a period where everyone's super stingy about painkillers again, which would explain like all these experiences I'm hearing. What? There was a time period where people were super open-handed with painkillers.
Yeah.
And it was this whole sort of believe the patient when they say they're in pain, don't question them, just prescribe the painkillers. And this was a thing that was fomented by a willing, like, there was a time where people would literally be like terminal and they'd be on their deathbeds, and doctors would be refusing them pain meds because they didn't want them to get addicted. And they're like, I'm fucking dying.
I'm on the way out the door here, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you worried about addiction? I'm not going to last the week. Give me fucking painkillers. And this kind of like started this soul searching thing among a lot of doctors, and they decided to adopt this philosophy that if the patient says they're in pain, believe them. And so if a patient comes to you and goes, my back super duper hurts, you don't go, where exactly have you tried physical therapy? You gave them painkillers. And that was kind of the beginning of the massive painkiller addiction epidemic in America. So in my opinion, right now, we're in the pendulum swinging back now, where people are super.
It was more the opioid the companies.
Yeah, it was also the opioid companies took advantage of that pendulum swing, though.
Yeah,
because people weren't just prescribing those opioids; they were prescribing kind of like all the painkillers across the board, because the new philosophy was believe the patient. And nowadays they're not quite back to refusing opioids to literal terminal patients in hospice, but they are like, you get one prescription strength Tylenol for your surgery kind of thing, which is like them trying to be responsible because they don't want to make more addicts.
Also, so because like there's now more like online diagnosis stuff, like this is part of the
telemedicine.
Yeah. This is part of the the pendulum swing away from drugs. Apparently, part of why there is an Adderall crisis right now, or Adderall shortage, is because those teledrug things were a lot easier to get Adderall out of.
I wasn't aware there was an Adderall shortage.
Yeah, that's why I've been holding off getting my test, because if I passing or failing an ADHD test, I don't know. But if I have this fear of, oh yay, the meds, I have this problem, the meds work, and then not being able to get them. It's like this idea of like, I'd rather not know. If I do
what normal feels like.
If I do end up needing them, I'd rather not know what it's like, because if these shortages happen to me, I don't know, maybe that's a dumb thing to think. That's just where I'm at and why I don't want to.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense.
So it's partly they're trying to reassess who actually needs these. But the problem is that part of the problem with this Adderall shortage is if someone is rationing their Adderall or successfully functions without it for a little while, that might get used against them.
Yeah. Why do you want to refill? You haven't had it in 2 months and you're doing fine.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know about the Adderall shortage at all. I only know.
Part of it is, supply chain issues in general, but like apparently those telemedical things like were a little bit easier to get drugs out of.
The only shortage I was aware of was Ozempic. Did y'all hear about that?
What's Ozempic?
Oh, for the diabetes thing?
Yeah, Ozempic is a drug that is made specifically for diabetics so they can lose weight. But the thing is, it'll make anybody lose weight. And there was a supposedly secret that one of the Kardashians dropped like 13 pounds in a week using Ozempic.
Well, it does more than help diabetics.
Does it just make you poop a lot? How do you lose 13 pounds in a week?
I'm not sure how it works. But
if I remember right, it helps you. I think it helps you metabolize. It's kind of like there are those antidepressant medications you can take that aren't antidepressants in and of themselves, but you take them with your antidepressants, and they help pick up some of the slack. If I remember, I think that's what this medication kind of does for like diabetes. Like it's not a substitute for like insulin and other treatments, but it helps them.
Yeah. And it's good for rapid, basically effort-free weight loss. I don't know if it's like a sustainable effect, but it is definitely a tangible. Yeah, it's definitely a tangible effect. And as a result, people are just fucking going to the doctor and being like, prescribe me Ozempic because they want to lose 10 pounds. And as a result, literal diabetics can't get their medication because there's an Ozempic shortage, because some celebrities took it. Like, people are theorizing that like Mindy Kaling took it, and like the Kardashians basically just straight up said, yeah, we take it, whatever, fight me. So everyone knows they do it. But I was like watching this interview with this guy who has diabetes. He's like, I haven't been able to get Ozempic for 2 months. I hate you all. I'm not trying to fit in a dress for the Met Gala. I'm trying to stay alive over here, you know? But yeah. I see. I bring the room down. That's
I got y'all were making me. You just made me think of something, and I kind of got lost in the thinking of the thing.
What was it?
Just back when I got my reduction surgery, and when they first give you the the medication, first they give you medication to like calm you down, and then they give you the shit that just knocks you the fuck out. And the calm you down shit kicks in, and that shit is magic. It's like instant. There are no worries in the world. Everything, like, I went from shaking because I was scared to I was upset at the doctors because they weren't laughing at my joke.
Was it that milk of amnesia stuff?
I don't know, but I remember lying on the table with the big operating light over me and actually genuinely getting mad because I was making jokes and everyone was ignoring me. And I remember just going, well, y'all are jerks, and then I blacked out.
Yeah.
It's like it was magic. Backwards? It was just magic. No, they didn't do that. No. It's just they kind of just ignored me while I talked. And then I blacked out, and that was it. Magical.
What's it like waking up from an
Miserable.
operation? Oh.
Like, well, Spike, you've never been drunk, have you?
No, I have not.
Okay.
It also depends entirely on how you react to anesthesia, because I had surgery on my shoulder when I was a teenager, and they injected me. I do not remember. I like blacked out a minute later, and then I woke up in the hospital bed, and it was like I was just asleep the whole time, or like I don't remember anything that happened after that needle went in my arm. So
well, I don't remember anything from the surgery. It was a blackout, and then suddenly I was awake. But afterwards, I felt like hungover, like the most painful hangover for probably like 2 days.
Oh.
But yeah, whereas like I didn't feel any of that. So like I just woke up and I was like, oh, I guess I'm done now. And
they gave me the gas, and they were like, can you count down from 10? And I was like, this is stupid. Obviously I can count down from 10. I remember counting down to like 6, and then I woke up and I had a surgery performed on me.
That wasn't your wrist, later. That was something different.
Oh yeah, this was I had a belly button hernia. Just put a little steel wall. Funny thing with belly button hernia, it's basically your guts leaking out of your belly button.
Yeah.
And so you push them, you poke them back in. You're like, no, you go back inside. And so I was poking him back in, and then I was out dancing with my wife, and then like my belly button really hurts. So I go home, and it's still hurting, like it's got a pain. I'm like, well, I don't want to call a doctor, so I'll call my friend who's a doctor. So I call my friend, and we used to date in undergrad, so we have our history. And she's like, oh, I'll come over, take a look. And she's like, yeah, you've got a hernia here. I'm going to massage it back in. That's a treatment. You should really go get this doctor to look at this and get a surgery done. So I'm lying on the couch on my back, and I've lifted my shirt up so you can massage my belly. And the easy way to do that is for her to straddle me at the waist. And I think this would be the perfect time for like Jen to come home after and be like, I got to go home. My stomach hurts.
Oh my God.
Call my ex-girlfriend. So yeah, I got it. It was great. Hernia was fine. Put a little mesh shield in front is how they solve it. And it was so painful when waking up. And the nurse was like, yeah, you were groaning a lot. And I was like, okay.
The surgery I had on my shoulder is because I had an extra bone in my shoulder.
Because you're a mutant. Bones. You're a mutant. You're a fucking freak.
I'm a mutant. Yep. I'm a mutant.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm the only person in the room who has not had surgery.
I guess so.
Oh,
maybe it's related to not getting drunk.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm the biggest square, and my reward is not having surgery.
Look, mine was elective.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's true.
Mine was also
that.
elective. The extra bone did not need to be removed. Like I had it my entire life, and the doctor would always look at it and like poke it and be like, "Does it hurt?" And I'm like, "No." "Does it get in the way of your arm moving?" "No." And it's like, "Then just leave it and let us know if it ever starts hurting."
So what changed your mind?
Puberty happened and it got in the way of wearing a bra.
Oh,
That's what
okay.
changed. So,
Fair enough. Fair
'cause
enough.
yeah, it was right where the bra strap was supposed to cover up. So, it was just in the way, and
So it would hurt, or it made wearing the bra less?
it made the bra wouldn't stay on right. That's it.
You'd think a bone there
Um,
would like, if it was the right shape, it could just be like a hook and hold it
Yeah.
perfectly in place.
yeah.
Oh wait, I've never had surgery or been drunk, but I have gotten incredibly delirious with like a 103-degree fever, which is, has anyone here been delirious but me?
Yep.
Okay. So Amanda, when I talk about how it's like you're a passenger in your own body watching things go on but having no control, does that sound familiar?
Mine wasn't quite like
Every
that.
day.
Yeah.
Mine was
I
because my fever was kind of like a full body experience. It was kind of hard to be like that.
mm, yeah, I had mine in the middle of the I was delirious in the middle of the night when I was like young, like single digits. And it's weird because I think my parents don't real like the kind of relationship I have with my folks, we don't like talk to each other at all. But I don't think they realize I knew what they were saying to each other and ended up remembering it. And it was basically in the middle of the night, and I just started talking, and my mom started asking me questions going like, "What are you talking about?" And she eventually realized I was literally babbling nonsense, and she went and got my dad, who's a doctor, and he stood over me, and he just said, "What's your name? What's your name?" And I said, "Butterfly."
But
And
Aw.
at that moment, my dad started getting dressed because again, middle of the night, he was wearing pajamas. And my mom was like, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm taking her to the emergency room. She's clearly delirious." And mom's like, "Don't do that. It's late." And he's like, "But she's delirious. She needs to go to the emergency room. She has an incredibly high fever. This is dangerous." And mom's like, "Just give it a couple hours. She'll be fine." And I don't think she knows to this day. I heard her talk my father out of taking me to the emergency room when I was like 7 with a 103-degree fever. We don't talk.
yeah.
I don't think she knows.
I think there might be a difference because my fevers that were that bad happened as an adult. And that was the 2 times I got a bad kidney infection back when I was working full time at Red Lobster.
Yay!
Not related?
Yes.
And working at Red Lobster give you a kidney infection?
Yep, because I was drinking a lot of sugary energy drinks to stay on my feet, and that's not good for your urinary tract. And so I was basically causing myself to get a bad kidney infection. But I was just assuming the pain in my side was, I'm tired. I got a stitch in my
Part
side.
of being alive.
Yeah, I'm just it just and
Life
also
is suffering, and
yeah.
this is what I deserve.
And then there's that whole problematique thing where girls are supposed to hurt, so it's fine.
I don't think that factored into it for me. It was more just you're surviving. You don't got like this is back. Okay, this is when during the crazy years when I was updating a webcomic weekly, I was doing Slipshine monthly, and I was working full time at Red Lobster. These were the bad times when I was like, I'm so accomplished. It's like, oh no, you're doing bad. This is bad what you're doing.
Yeah, that's some yikes
This is
shit right
not admirable what you're doing. This is actually quite bad. How those manifested was more of a I'm really cold. I have no idea why. And like I went to take a bath and it was just like, why is the bathwater cold? And my partner at the time was like, the bathwater is extremely hot. There's something extremely wrong with you. It's like, can you make the water? I was just like, can you make the water hotter? It's like, no, we can't make the water hotter.
I'm not going to boil you.
Yeah. It's like, and it was just I didn't feel any symptoms. I was just like, I guess I just don't feel good. It's like, no, you're sweating. it was just a bad time. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, don't do that. If you're listening, don't do that.
Don't do that. Don't work a bajillion jobs. Just don't do it.
Don't work a bajillion jobs, and don't drink.
Get a kidney infection.
Yeah, don't get a kidney infection. Don't only drink Java Monsters.
Maybe not. Yeah, I
remember
bringing
when
it back.
Monster
That's what we should
Energy
teach us in school.
But I remember when Monster Energy Drink had that booth at Emerald City Comic Con, and we're giving out free pins.
I still have those pins.
Like they gave me free pins, and I was like, I don't want these. And I was like, Amanda, you drink Java Monsters. Would you like a Java Monster pin?
I still have it's actually above my computer right now, right under my Sonic Obama pin.
I know exactly what you're talking about too.
Obama as Sonic or Sonic as Obama?
There's this famous photo of a bootleg backpack. It has a miscolored Sonic the Hedgehog with the word Obama under it. And someone made a pin version, and it's let me find it. I can link it.
Yeah, that bootleg backpack is a good one. That's a real good one.
Oh, I can spell, I promise.
Doubtful citation.
Oh, I forgot it also says Harry Potter.
Oh.
I forgot about that part.
But yeah.
On you. Check. Here, I sent it to the
I want to see. Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, thing of beauty.
Oh, and the roses. I forgot about them.
God, I hope like archaeologists dig this up in 1,000 years.
Amazing. The number 10 on the chest really sells it. Harry Potter.
Gift that keeps giving.
It's something that's adjacent to Comic Sans, but not quite Comic Sans.
It's a masterpiece on multiple levels, to be fair.
Yeah.
And 2 roses in the background.
Yeah, for class. But folks,
I'll take 2.
Folks, we are coming up on 2 hours. And that is where we customarily end things.
We don't have to.
But we can.
Yeah.
Ryan, is there anything you want to promote or tell folks about before we go?
Yeah, if you look in the background, if you're watching this video, there's a book called Failure to Launch. Funding now you can get. And it's great. Yes. I mean, I've only read all the stories that we made, but I thought it was pretty good. So
I have read the
rest are also good.
Yeah, I have read the whole thing. Kel did a bang up job doing the editorial chores on it. I'm like the obviously editor in chief, so it's like I'm kind of like the final stop. I had literally no fucking notes. It's perfect.
Wow.
It was very it was I hope this one wins an Eisner too.
Honestly, it's fucked up to say. You can't go around saying that shit, but it's true. I have said in the chat, not the chat, excuse me, the Slack, that it's like, if this doesn't at least get a nomination, I'm going to lose my fucking mind because it's that good.
Riot in the streets.
I'm gonna just absolutely throw the biggest baby pants sweaty tantrum if it doesn't get a nom, because
I'll
it's
lend
just
you my rats.
so
You can throw them at people.
It's so choice. It's so choice.
You heard it here first. The people making the book think it's great.
Yeah, exactly. What more do you need? But yeah, where can folks find you online, Ryan?
Oh gosh, I have a personal website, ryannorth.ca. My comics, dinosaurcomics.com, and for probably a couple more weeks at least, Ryan Q North on Twitter.
A couple more weeks if we're lucky. I am at Iron_Spike on Twitter. I am Iron Spike on co-host and Pillow Fort, all one word. IronCircus.com is mine. You can go on there and sign up for the newsletter where you can keep aware of all the things going on at Iron Circus. Right now, as Ryan mentioned, we are running a crowdfund for Failure to Launch. It is on BackerKit. We are funded and we have about 3 weeks. No, actually more than 3 weeks. We have like 28 days left to fund this book, and we are currently fully funded and just padding creator pay. Buying from us direct is the best way to pad creator pay. It goes directly to our artists, as it should. It's really good, and I think you should get a copy.
You can find all my stuff at kelmcdonald.com.